Welcome to this training session for your GEKKO Pole-climbing shoes. These have been developed through a collaboration between senior structural engineers, industrial designers, and professional linemen, and will take you to new heights safely, comfortably, and conveniently. I will be leading you through the process from unboxing to your first climb, including some tips on keeping your climbing shoes in top shape throughout their lifetime. Opening the GEKKO box, you will find the following contents. A left shoe, a right shoe, a bag of bolts, and an instruction manual. Let's take a closer look at the shoes. First, some terminology, which we'll use consistently throughout this video. The long arm that curves up and around the back side of the pole is called the hoop. The front plate on which you stand is called the foot plate. The binding is attached to the foot plate. The rear plate is called the heel plate. The heel plate includes an optional ankle strap. The foot plate and heel plate are mounted on the carriage, which can be adjusted forwards and backwards on the hoop. The carriage includes a front thumb screw and a rear thumb screw, which are tightened to lock the hoop and carriage together, or loosened to adjust them. This sets the distance between the grips. On the other side of the carriage is the grip arm, containing the lower grip plate. The upper grip is located at the end of the hoop. At the opposite end of the hoop is the end cap and the safety bolt. The safety bolt is what prevents the hoop from pulling free from the carriage. So if I loosen it and try to slide the hoop out, there's metal-to-metal contact that prevents the two parts from coming apart. Your shoes, these do not, but your shoes may include shim plates, which are bolted to the inside of the carriage. This pair does not, but others may. These are used to obtain better tolerances on the clearance between the hoop and carriage. They improve the shoe's function and should not be removed or tampered with. Your GEKKO pole climbing shoes have features to provide you with a safe, comfortable, and adjustable platform for climbing and working at heights. The twisted S shape of the hoop gives 3-point contact at the lower grip, the upper grip, and the side of the hoop. This triangle of contact helps to stabilize the shoe against rotation when you're climbing. The shoes have been designed for climbing poles between 20 and 40 centimeters in diameter. This gives you, quite literally, a leg up on the competition, where you would need to purchase multiple pairs of shoes to span the same range. You will note that the upper grip on the hoop has a flattened profile rather than wrapping completely around the back of the pole. So this is a more or less straight profile here. This is required in order to span this large range of pole diameters. The shoes have been tested extensively in the laboratory, at utility pole climbing test ranges, and on jobs in the field, and have been demonstrated to provide a good and reliable grip. When it comes to the grips, you have two choices. Out of the box, the shoes are equipped with toothed plates, bolted in place with flat bolts, as you see on this shoe here. So here's the tooth plate, and there's 3 flat bolts that are shallow enough that they do not interfere with the teeth of the plate. These tooth plates are ideal for climbing composite poles, since they do not penetrate and damage the outer coating. The tooth plates can also be used for climbing wooden poles at your discretion. Caution is advised when climbing worn or flaking wooden poles using the tooth plates, since wood chips can sit in between the teeth and reduce the grip's effectiveness. Should this occur, it is recommended to downclimb and switch to the large spikes. I've already installed the large spikes on the left shoe. The large spikes are intended for climbing wooden poles. They should not be used to climb composite poles, since they can penetrate and damage the outer coating. In order to switch from the flat bolts to spikes, use a wrench with a 10mm hex socket to loosen and remove one bolt at a time. Replace the bolt with a spike, screw it in, and tighten with a torque of 7 Newton meters. For this, we recommend using a calibrated torque wrench, unless you can reliably produce a 7 Newton meter torque by hand. Adjust it to the proper level. And apply the 7 Newton meter torque. Like so. Now the spike is well fastened. To switch back from spikes to flat bolts, simply reverse the process. The flat bolts should also be tightened with a torque of 7 Newton meters. Do not over-tighten the bolts or spikes, since this can damage the screw threads and lead to equipment malfunction. The foot plate and heel plate can be adjusted forward and backward in the holes provided for this purpose. The foot plate has 2 positioning options, while the heel plate has 3. To adjust them, take a 4mm Allen key and simply remove the bolts. A tip, it's convenient to open the binding when unscrewing the front foot plate, as this makes access to the screw easier. When the screws are removed, simply slide the plates forward or backward until they're aligned with the desired holes, at which point the screws can be installed again. The foot plate screws can be tightened hand tight, which means don't use a torque wrench or a long wrench and really crank them, just a screwdriver type device, and give it a good firm tightening motion. That's sufficient. There we go. What's important is that the heel plate must not be adjusted such that it overhangs the back of the carriage. So you have to use both bolts, 2 bolts in the heel plate at all times. If it's installed such that it overhangs the carriage, it could compromise the strength of both the heel plate and the carriage and lead to equipment malfunction. So make sure that it's always installed with both 2 screws. The binding is loosened by pressing the protruding black lever and pulling the ratchet strap through the buckle. To tighten the binding, insert the ratchet strap into the buckle. Then pull repeatedly up on the metallic ratchet handle until the binding is tight. The ankle strap on the heel plate is optional. If your preference is to use the ankle strap, then adjust its positioning in the heel plate slots, such that the buckle will lay over the instep when tightened. Depress the lever of the cam buckle to open it. Feed the strap's free end through the cam buckle. Pull on the free end to tighten the strap around the ankle. And pull tight. Now it's fastened pretty well. Upcoming versions of the GEKKO Pole-climbing shoe will be delivered with a Cobra buckle. Make sure that the free end of the strap is doubled back through the buckle's adjustable side. The buckle is fastened by simply pressing the 2 halves together. It is unfastened by simultaneously squeezing the 2 metal latches on the sides of the buckle. The carriage and hoop are locked together by tightening the 2 thumb screws such that their screw tips press against the hoop wall. That is to say, the thumb screws function as set screws, with holding power developed by compression and friction at the screw tip. They should be tightened firmly by hand. Do not use tools such as wrenches to obtain additional mechanical advantage when tightening the thumb screws. Doing so could damage the thumb screw and possibly the hoop wall and lead to equipment malfunction. The thumb screws are installed with special catch washers that prevent them from being fully unscrewed. So if we unscrew it, eventually a tab on the thumb screw will come in contact with the catch on the washer and prevent the thumb screw from coming out. Do not apply a large unscrewing force to the thumb screw when it is in contact with the catch. Doing so could damage the thumb screw's tab or the catch and lead to equipment malfunction. The 4 main bolts holding the grip arm onto the carriage are installed in the factory with a permanent tightening torque. They should never be unscrewed. It is permissible to verify the tightness of installation by using a calibrated torque wrench to apply a tightening torque of 11 Newton meters during periodic inspections. Do not over-tighten the bolts, since this could damage the screw threads and lead to equipment malfunction. The safety bolt should be removed only by a qualified technician when performing a periodic inspection. If it is a hexagonal head bolt, as you see on this shoe, then it must be installed with a DIN 125 M5 washer underneath the bolt. Upcoming versions of the GEKKO Pole-climbing shoe will be delivered with an alternative safety bolt design that does not require a washer. I have an example of that on this shoe. You can see that. When reinstalling the safety bolt after an inspection, use a tightening torque of 4 Newton meters. So you have removed the GEKKO Pole-climbing shoes from the box. Perform these initial checks. Visually inspect the parts for obvious cracks or damage: hoop, carriage, grip arm, and foot plates. Looks great. Using your fingers, check and verify that the following bolts are not loose. The 4 main bolts, the 3 tooth plate bolts at the lower grip, the 3 tooth plate bolts at the upper grip, and the safety bolt. All of these bolts come tightened at the factory and should never be loose. It's just a safety precaution. If any of the bolts are found to be loose, tighten them using the installation torques mentioned previously in this video. Then use a 4mm Allen key to check and tighten the screws attaching the binding to the foot plate. These screws are not permanently installed and can loosen over time. The binding should be stiff and resist being pulled forwards and backwards. If the binding feels loose, then it's a sign that the binding screws should be tightened. For example, if I loosen these, then the binding's loose and the screws should be retightened. Use a nice hand-tight torque. No wrenches required. Give them a front tightening. Now it's good and stiff. Adjust the foot plate and heel plate by using a 4mm Allen key to remove their screws. Slide the foot plate and heel plate along the track into their desired positions. Make sure that each screw hole in the foot plate is aligned with this corresponding threaded hole in the carriage. Then tighten the screws hand tight. We went through that earlier, so I'm not going to demonstrate it again. Once it's adjusted to your foot, then the shoes are ready for the first climb. GEKKO Pole-climbing shoes provide a safe and sturdy working platform, but they are to be used only as part of a system including primary fall protection equipment such as safety harness, fall arrest lanyard, and helmet. Before each climb, you should perform the following checks. Visually inspect the parts for obvious cracks and damage. Inspect the grip plate bolts or spikes and make sure that they are not loose. Draw the binding lightly fore and aft and make sure that it offers resistance. Recall if it feels loose, then tighten the binding screws. Evaluate the total weight of the climber plus all equipment being carried. The maximum capacity of the GEKKO pole climbing shoes is 160 kilograms. Now set the shoes up for your climb. Place the shoes on the pole. Adjust the distance between grips such that the shoes attain the desired angle. The proper angle is to some extent a matter of preference and is left to the lineman's discretion. If the angle is too far toe down, then widen the grips. And you'll get a more flat angle. Likewise, if it's too far heel down, then narrow the grips. It may be advantageous to anticipate tapering of the pole by starting with a slightly toed down angle, such that when you climb up to height, the angle is more level and provides a good working platform. To adjust the distance between grips, loosen the 2 thumb screws and slide the hoop relative to the carriage. Retighten the thumb screws firmly with the fingers. Remember, do not use a wrench or other tools to over-tighten the thumb screws, since this can lead to damage and equipment malfunction. The thumb screws are designed to be operable with one hand. This allows the distance between grips to be adjusted while climbing. This is especially relevant on highly tapered poles. The lineman stands with the weight distributed between one shoe and the safety harness, loosens the thumb screws on the other shoe, slides the hoop to its new position, and retightens the thumb screws. If the carriage is pressed all the way forwards into the hoop's bend, it can become jammed. Like so. Adjusting the carriage this far forward is not necessary for climbing and should be avoided, except during inspections. If it nonetheless happens, then it is usually sufficient to hit the back end of the hoop on the ground. In an extreme case, it is also possible to use a rubber or plastic mallet to tap the carriage loose. It is recommended to climb with smooth, confident motions. Dynamic kicking or bouncing can cause the carriage and hoop to work relative to each other, which can cause the distance between the grips to open by several millimeters. If either shoe feels like it is loose or working, then reach down and check the tightness of the thumb screws. This would be a kind of working sound and motion that you might experience. The shoes are designed such that friction prevents the grips from suddenly sliding open under weight, even if the thumb screws were fully loosened. You can try this yourself with the shoes mounted on a pole at ground level. You are now finished with your job, and it is time to store the equipment. If the climbing shoes are dirty, then they may be cleaned using warm water, a mild detergent, and a soft cloth or brush, the type of things you'd use around the kitchen. Rinse and wipe dry with a cloth or towel. Do not use industrial solvents or pressure washers, as these could damage the anodized surface of the aluminum parts. The GEKKO pole climbing shoe should be inspected periodically according to a schedule dictated by your company or operating authority. The inspection should include at least the following elements. The parts should be visually inspected for obvious cracks or other damage. GEKKO pole climbing shoes have robust structural parts that are designed to take a beating. Surface blemishes, shallow nicks or gouges, and a few broken grip plate teeth are part of normal wear and tear. Secondary parts, such as the grip plates, bolts, spikes, foot plates, binding, ankle straps, and thumb screws, can be replaced and are available for purchase as spare parts. The primary structures, hoop, carriage, and grip arm, are not replaceable except by agreement with Framti engineers. If the hoop, carriage, or grip arm shows signs of cracks or other severe damage, then the shoes should not be used. If mandated by your company or operating authority, the inspector may remove the safety bolt for an unobstructed view of the hoop in the interior of the carriage. If not mandated, then we recommend that the safety bolt be considered permanent. Most of the hoop's length can be examined by sliding the carriage fully forward and fully back. At the end of the inspection, all the bolts should be checked and tightened. To recap the torque levels, grip bolts, 7 Newton meters. Main grip arm bolts, 11 Newton meters. Safety bolt, 4 Newton meters. And the shim plate screws, if these are present, 3 Newton meters. The thumb screw nuts can be tightened to a torque of 25 Newton meters. The binding screws and foot plate screws can be tightened hand tight. The periodic inspection should also include a check for permanent deformation of the structural components. 2 accessory tools are provided for this purpose. Check plate and check rod. Check plate is a clear plastic plate machined into a profile. 2 of the profile edges fit closely along the upper and back surfaces of the grip arm. By holding the edges up to the grip arm, it can be verified that the arm has its original shape. No deformation here. Check plate also includes a dashed outline of a 90-degree bend. This is held up in turn to each bend in the hoop. When properly centered, the top and bottom surfaces of the hoop should fall inside the dashed slots. Yeah, that's 90 degrees. Yeah. No deformation. Check rod includes a screw sticking out from one end and a plate on the other end. The plate is labeled with L and R and arrows indicating the bands associated with each. It should be obvious that the L is for the left shoe and the R is for the right shoe. Place and hold the screw tip on the upper grip side corner of the hoop's back end. Grip side, upper corner of the hoop, right here. Then align the plate with the upper outermost corner of the hoop's upper grip. This corner right there. This upper grip corner should fall within the indicated band on the plate. Indeed, here it falls just about in the middle of the R zone, indicating that there is no permanent deformation. There are relatively tight tolerances between the hoop and carriage, so any significant permanent deformation of the carriage or of the hoop within the sliding region will be evident as difficulty in the sliding motion. It should slide smoothly and evenly. That means there is no permanent deformation. If these checks are successful, then it is guaranteed that the shoe has not experienced any significant permanent deformation. If one or more of these checks is unsuccessful, then the shoe should be considered as damaged and should not be used. Your GEKKO pole climbing shoes are labeled with a production date. This is given either by a permanent sticker on the wall of the carriage, in this case here, or by the last 4 digits of the batch number etched onto the carriage. The sticker format is a 4-digit year, then H1 or H2, where H1 indicates the first half year and H2 indicates the second half year. For example, this sticker is 2026 H1, first half of 2026. The format on an etched batch number is reversed, H1 or H2, followed by a 2-digit year. So this shoe then would be H126. Your company or operating authority will provide guidance as to the permissible maximum lifetime of your GEKKO pole climbing shoes. Beyond this lifetime, the shoes should be discarded and replaced. This concludes the training session for the GEKKO pole climbing shoes. If you have any questions or feedback, then you're welcome to contact Framti engineers for a discussion. Contact information can be found at framtiproducts.no. Get ready to climb to new heights.